Additionally, some tools could help you meet a different set of objectives as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think stretching your capabilities to the limit at a given stage, it produces really key learnings. What it does is it increases your maturity at the skills level, and it also increases it tends to improve your processes as you kind of try and get more and more out of your capabilities at a given stage. And that pays dividends as you now, once you've stretched to the limit your current capabilities, now you have a much better sense of what you're investing in to expand those capabilities, right? And so whereas the reverse can be the case, right? Where you buy the performance car, but you don't know how to drive it. And that's kind of, in some ways, a worse situation to be in, right? Because now you're paying for the performance, but you're not getting the performance, right? So that's not good. And I guess I'll give another example. So we talked about customer engagement. Let's also talk about digital experience, right? So are you using your analytics? Are you using your digital analytics or your mobile measurement or any of the other data you currently have available to look at how content and user experience is either enhancing or degrading performance, right? If you're not, then adding in an expensive digital experience tool is not going to help you, right? So there's a lot of data in front of you. Yes, you would have to do manual analysis, right? But you can put in place a free tool to start. You could use like Crazy Egg, right? So now you have a visualization of how people are engaging with your content. Well, maybe you'll exhaust that quickly, and it will be the insights you'll get out of it. Maybe you're going to move on and implement Hotjar or a more, and have something with session replay as well. But you're going to have to analyze what that data is telling you, right? And then, but ultimately, maybe once you have an understanding of how all these things happen, then maybe an enterprise tool like a Content Square or investing in a CMS that has built-in digital experience capable, like a Sitecore or something like that, right? Like at the point you are better positioned to utilize those capabilities in an ongoing effort to improve user experience, customer experience. Like that's when you're going to get the value out of those tools. So it's like. Get ready to deep dive into the world of digital transformation, where we explore the latest trends, innovations, and challenges shaking up industries. Join us as we decode the secrets behind successful digital strategies and hear from experts who are at the forefront of disrupting the status quo. In each episode, we'll unravel the mysteries of the digital realm and uncover the hidden opportunities that lie within. From artificial intelligence to blockchain, from automation to cybersecurity, we'll leave no digital stone unturned. But hold on tight, because this podcast isn't your average tech talk. We're injecting a hefty dose of wit and humor into every episode, making learning about digital transformation an absolute blast. So if you're ready to embrace the digital revolution with a smile on your face, tune in to the Digital Disruption Podcast and get ready to be entertained, informed, and inspired. Don't miss out on the fun. Subscribe now and join us on this wild digital journey.
Hello and good morning and good evening also. Usually it's only good morning, but now it's all going good morning and good evening.
Hey, Daoud, how's it going?
Oh, good. For you, Patrick, it is good evening for both of us, You can bundle us both in evening.
That's true.
Which,
That's true.
which is more convenient.
Good to see you, Ahmad, as well. As you
Yeah,
can see,
we have not seen him since the Scan podcast episode with Git, our friend from Adjust.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's good to be back on the podcast.
It's good
How's
to be
it going?
back. Oh, good. We have a three-way podcast today, so it's not just me and Patrick. It's not just Ahmad, Hassan, and Gate. It's us three, which reminds me of a joke. It goes as is. Three men walk into a bar, and then the bar manager asks them, "Hey guys, I have a problem. Can you solve it for me?" And each and each person gives different info. Why is that? Why is that? It's not a joke.
Uh,
It's a philosophical question. But it is an interesting question, which is going to be today's podcast episode: data and the ideal tech stack. Which does it exist? Does it not exist? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It reminds me of a philosophical question. If you take one tile from a ship and then you replace the whole ship, is the ship the same ship? Is it not the same ship?
it
I feel
reminds
like
me
this
of the
is
story of is this kind of like the story of the three blind men that are all touching the elephant, a different part of the elephant or whatever, and they each say, they each interpret their experience as like what do they actually have their hand on is different, right? Because
oh yeah,
they
I
all
love
have a
this joke.
different perspective. Yeah.
Uh So we'll kick this off. I'm not sure where to kick this off because there is no shape, form, or something that we can kick things off with. But I'll ask that question. Do you think the ideal marketing stack or like ideal tech stack, Martech stack exists?
Ahmad, I'm going to defer to you on that to sort of kick that controversy off, and I'll give my
Oi,
thoughts
oi.
after you have a
Oi,
chance.
oi.
Sure. You can't imagine the number of times I've heard like clients asking for what would be the perfect Martech stack for me to have? What tools are we missing? It keeps coming up, but does it really exist? And it's just like the matter of the fact is every client, every brand is different. Even the same brand is at different stages in their journey. And at every journey, there's a different set of tools that could be leveraged. So yeah, it's just it's a joke somehow. That question. It's just that it's very tough to define a specific set of tools and just mention those are a requirement. You should have those. From what I know, I don't think that exists. Like, what do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this topic some obviously in preparation for today. It's part of our daily interactions with clients, and I tend to agree with you. The ideal tech stack is a little bit of a unicorn in the forest somewhere that doesn't necessarily exist. That said, what kind of a consensus I think that we have come up with as a group is like, depending on the industry you're in, there are certain capabilities that you need in order to uh, align with your business objectives, the outcomes you're trying to achieve. That's typically based on trying to deliver some kind of a set of user experiences to be able to engage with your customers in a certain way, to be able to effectively and efficiently acquire new customers, right? So there are, I would say, maybe some consensus digital capabilities that you need. And then well, and you had brought up a good point the other day when we were kind of brainstorming for this, is that how those capabilities translate into technology is very closely tied to your level of digital maturity at a given time, right? So maybe you could reflect on that a little bit, kind of how those two play together.
Yeah, I think like as you're mentioning, like there is a set of capabilities that you might be looking for. Those are part of your objectives, let's say. You want to make sure that you're optimizing your acquisition, costs, allocating budget effectively, uh, delivering amazing experiences to your audience. This is where you start, and from that point onwards, you just look at those objectives and then connect the dots to which tools could help you achieve that. But with additional constraints, though, with the constraint of the skills that your team currently have, tools alone not really enough. They don't make they wouldn't just generate the results on their own. And additionally, there's other constraints such as any time frame, short-term, long-term objectives, as well as budgets, what you can afford to add to your stack, or what kind of tools you could actually utilize. Even the volume of data that you have would make a difference. But as you were mentioning, it just starts with the objectives you have, the capabilities you're looking for, and then connecting the dots to what tools could be leveraged to help you achieve those objectives.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice, concise summary of that. I think, and we've also been circulating the 2024 state of Martech report, that the folks at Chief Martech, Scott Brinker and Franz Riemersma, that they recently released in May. Great report. I think it's a 104, 105 page report, right, with all kinds of great information. But I think since they started, doing the whole Martech landscape, they've shown every year this sort of massively proliferating and growing ecosystem of MarTech tools, right? And I mean, I've been guilty of this, like this rhetoric that the MarTech and particularly the ad tech landscape is going through this consolidation, and in certain sort of ways it has, but I think their own data and research clearly shows like that as a overall ecosystem, the MarTech landscape just keeps expanding, and in some ways over the last couple of years, it's been like exponentially growing. Certainly, like generative AI and things like that have had something to do with that. But I think they showed something like 14,000 tools. So we've added 14,000 or added 3,000 tools in the last year, and I think 250 approximately went away, right? So certainly the number of tools you possibly could open your checkbook for and invest in is just expanding. It's not diminishing, right?
Every year
What
with
did you? Yeah,
that number is gonna, it's gonna get smaller. We're gonna see we're gonna see it plateauing, but it just keeps increasing. There's more tools released every year.
yeah. And I think in that regard, one of the interesting um not necessarily a trend, but one of their kind of recommendations, I guess, in terms of putting together your own tech stack is they have an interesting, I guess, model that they sort of discuss it, and this like, of kind of developing that core tech, um, that essentially that you for lack of a better word, that you need, like, let's say this aligns most closely with like the core capabilities you need to be able to drive, say, your commerce engine, your media buying, your analytics tools, your data warehouse, whatever you've established as that core tech, and then you have essentially layering in these kind of more bespoke specialty tools that serve really important, valuable functions, but maybe they're not like considered a core component of your stack. I like that kind of approach that they're outlining. I know you saw a few trends and data points in the report that you found interesting. What did you think of it?
I didn't get a chance to go through the full report, but there was a section regarding MarTech stack maturity and impact by industry. So in that section, the report covers the correlation between the average revenue per employee and the MarTech stack maturity. And then there is an additional segment where they go through the different types of tools within that MarTech stack and the correlation per industry between leveraging that tool and the average revenue per employee. So when you look at that, you could, extract some insights, such as, for example, the relevance of using a CRM or CDP when it comes to top performers in banking, for example, in comparison to e-commerce. And there's some interesting insights in there. I've had having a look at that report. There's some insights there as to, and it connects back to what you were saying, like these tools that you need to have. Like, what would you say would be essential tools to have as part of MarTech stack?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I guess it goes back to the three guys that walk into the bar and they're going to get three different answers. No, in seriousness, no, like we almost have to take this idea of, right, like let's look at a particular type of company or type of client, and then let's sort of cross tabulate that with a level of maturity, right? And so so if we take omnichannel retailer, for example, then we can, and of course, we're not doing this cold. We've done this, so we've taken a little bit of time to prep this ahead of time. But what we can do is say, okay, what are the capabilities you need? So to go back to our earlier part of our discussion, what are the capabilities you need, and then where am I at on the maturity? And we're going to use just for simplicity's sake, we'll use the Google rubric of digital maturity. So the kind of 4 stages, right, of nascent, emerging, connected, and multi-moment, right? So going like from an increasingly on the nascent end of the spectrum, fragmented, siloed tools, not integrated, like no data orchestration for the most part, right? To multi-moment where you have, kind of near 360 view of your customers. You're able to like stitch together like these, like the name of the phase, right? Multi-moment marketing, right? So you're actually able to stitch together a journey of messaging, different media formats, cross-device. So you're actually thinking it's very customer and user centric, right? And you're trying to deliver this kind of cohesive and connected set of experiences and messaging and et cetera, right? So if you kind of cross tab those two and you take the capabilities, we did kind of walk through like, hey, what do you need to really be, successful for the short, mid, and long term? Like, what are some of the key capabilities you need? So that's how I would get to that core. That's how I sort of the exercise you need to go through to get to what's the core tech you need, right? And then we kind of go through. So like, let's just tease apart customer engagement, for example, right? Like, so everybody knows getting a customer you already have, assuming you have a product or a service that's worth buying and that you deliver good customer service, your pricing is fair, all the usual caveats. But if everything else is in line, it's much easier to sell to somebody who's already bought from you than it is to acquire a new customer. Right? That's a general maxim. So customer engagement is a huge component of maximizing customer lifetime value, reducing churn, right? Increasing customer repeat rates, all of those things that are really important. So at the nascent end of the spectrum, like maybe you're literally you have a team of 1, right? And maybe they're literally using like an email marketing tool, right? And maybe it has SMS capabilities as well, right? Or maybe you have an email marketing tool and an SMS tool, but they're not connected to your other, your data warehouse. They're not connected in with your other data systems. Maybe you're sending, manual campaigns on a weekly basis, a limited amount of audience segmentation, right? But it's largely disconnected. That's better than doing nothing. You certainly are getting, unless you're just blasting people irrelevant messaging, you are getting some benefit out of that, and you should be doing it. But at a certain point, like your boss is going to come to you and say, "Why aren't we doing more personalization? Why aren't we? Why are you sending this email campaign? By the way, like why isn't this automated? Right? There's a whole bunch of follow-up drip campaigns that can be done that should be automated, right? So at that point, you're going to run up against technology limitations potentially, right? Depending what tools you're using. So that's one of those cases where, okay, if you've stretched your current capabilities to the limit, now you're trying to get into that kind of emerging and connected stage, right? And so you need to invest in better processes. So automation, maybe you need to get more skills too in order to do that. So you're going to have to tackle the people part of this problem as well, which also has a cost associated with it. But so maybe now you're moving from a an email marketing tool to a marketing automation tool. And some of those are not any more expensive or just marginally more expensive, right? There's actually some very affordable marketing automation tools. So maybe, that's the next investment, which I mean, quite literally could be going from a free tool to like $50 a month tool, or it could be going from a $35 a month tool to a $75 a month tool if you only have one or two seats, one or two users. We're not talking like massive investments here in that realm. Okay, but now you want to get more connected. So now maybe you need to invest in a more enterprise type of a tool, right? Like a Klaviyo, an Attentive, in order to be able to really integrate and orchestrate email and SMS and push notifications. And maybe you're the kind of like retailer where people have like different kind of connected smart devices, and so you want to do like IoT pushes, right? So there are customer engagement platforms that can push messaging anywhere that you are able to push messaging, right? So you can get increasingly sophisticated here. The tools become more expensive, the skills needed. If you really want to do, so we work with Engage a lot as a customer engagement tool. And the magic there, the tool itself is just enabling technology, right? Ahmed, you said this earlier, right? It's like just putting in place this tool is not going to do anything for your business. But if you do really sophisticated audience segmentation, journey mapping, right? Map those journeys to those audience segments, migrate people in and out of journeys based on their different points in the life cycle. Like that's where you reap these rewards, right? And now this tool, and then are you also coordinating, like doing data orchestration, at the kind of multi-moment end of the spectrum, right? Are you leveraging real-time insights from streaming data, right? And event-driven architecture? Are you data orchestrating through your CDP and your data warehouse, right? Are these things now integrated into your engagement process? So that's how these things sort of proceed through, right? From like nascent to emerging. That's just one capability, right? But you can see, even just start discussing one capability, I've actually started discussing a bunch of other capabilities. As we in the nascent stage, you can look at each of those capabilities separately. But one thing I hope it was obvious as I started talking about connected and multi-moment, you can't talk about one digital capability without talking about another. So you can't talk about multi-moment customer engagement without also talking about data orchestration, without also talking about digital experience, right? Like, so everything becomes increasingly connected, for one thing.
And they're connected as well, like by objectives, right, Patrick? Like if my objective is, for example, let's say like we're gonna make sure that we increase the activation of newly acquired users, like that objective is by default has multi factors involved, and this CEP, for example, could be used. The types of journeys could be used for onboarding to help with that objective as well. So it's not just like tools at different maturity levels, it's also the maturity in utilizing that tool itself. How much of the capabilities are you using? What aligns with your objectives? And what do you need to, let's say, work on next? Maybe the ideal stack isn't, something, it's not one answer. There's no silver bullet for this. But at the end of the day, you could use your current state, and that involves a lot of factors to, conclude or decide on what would be the next good step to get me to meet those objectives that I have. And that's gonna include a lot of different objectives aligning. Additionally, some tools could help you meet, a different set of objectives as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think stretching your capabilities to the limit at a given stage, it produces really key learnings. What it does is it increases your maturity at the skills level, And it also increases it tends to improve your processes as you kind of, try and get more and more out of your capabilities at a given stage. And that pays dividends as you now, like, right, once you've stretched to the limit your current capabilities, now you have a much better sense of what you're investing in to expand those capabilities, right? And so whereas the reverse can be the case, right? Where you buy the performance car, but you don't know how to drive it. And that's kind of in some ways a worse situation to be in, right? Because now you're paying for the performance, but you're not getting the performance, right? So that's not good. And I think, and I guess I'll give another example. So we talked about customer engagement. Let's also talk about like digital experience, right? Like, so are you using your analytics? Are you using your digital analytics or your mobile measurement or any of the other data you currently have available to look at how content and user experience is either enhancing or degrading performance, right? If you're not, then adding in an expensive digital experience tool is not going to help you, right? So there's a lot of data in front of you. Yes, you would have to do manual analysis, right? But you can put in place a free tool to start. You could use like Crazy Egg, right? And so now you have a visualization of how people are engaging with your content. Well, maybe you'll exhaust that quickly, and it will be the insights you'll get out of it. Maybe you're going to move on and implement Hotjar or a more, and have something with session replay as well. But you're going to have to, again, you're going to have to analyze what that data is telling you, right? And then, but ultimately, maybe once you have an understanding of how all these things happen, then maybe an enterprise tool like a Content Square or investing in a CMS that has built-in digital experience capable, like a Sitecore or something like that, right? Like at the point you are better positioned to utilize those capabilities in an ongoing effort to improve user experience, customer experience. Like that's when you're going to get the value out of those tools. So it's like push things to the limits, learn, do something with that information, that data. Like you can improve, you can get 8 smart or really dumb people in your company and all sit around the table, and you can make user experience, you can improve digital experience just by looking at your website. Like, right? Like ask somebody who, like, ask somebody, just like go pick 3 people at random in your company and ask them to go through the process you would expect a customer to go through. They will find things wrong with your own website, right? Like that's digital experience analytics right there, right? I mean, don't ask the person who designed it to do this, right? Because they're innately familiar with it. But so you can all there any of these capabilities, you can do something that's better than nothing with any level of tool investment, right? And even if you have the best digital experience tool, you should still do what I just said, which is on occasion, whether it's monthly, quarterly, you should get 8 people sit around a table, look at your website, look at your mobile app, and improve the experience based on just human, real human, not artificial intelligence, but real human intelligence. RHI 2.0.
The real deal.
No, I mean,
I would,
right? So,
I would,
yeah.
yeah, I would ask because, as you said, like at at every stage you'll have different kind of ideal stack, which makes my question a little bit complicated because I was gonna ask if you look at the bell curve, so you have outliers on the right, outliers on the left, and then a huge spike in the middle. What would be an average or like median kind of ideal stack? And it would differ from people who are just startups to people who are SMPs to enterprises. So that's why like it's 2 bell curve that are changing with each other. But what would be an average or like median ideal stack? Category wise, not even tool wise, category wise.
Okay.
Like what
Let's
is
just
the
go
thing that
like,
you
yeah.
want to go at?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we can go industry by industry, but let's stick with our sort of retailer and e-commerce with omnichannel, or you could even be an e-commerce player, just a pure play e-commerce. I think you need customer engagement capabilities. Like if you're not, your long-term prospects for being a successful company are not good. You're just going to be too reliant on new customer acquisition if you're not doing a good job with customer engagement.
And
Digital experience, I think, even if it's, like I said, even if you're just using sort of analytics and a small number of tools, you need the capability. Uh, some, uh, I would say in the bell curve, sort of the median, you need some form of media activation and attribution tools to really be as successful as you can. What that looks like can vary quite a lot depending on your media mix. So I don't want to like be overly prescriptive there. But I think you'll run up against if you're just, buying within Google Ads, Microsoft advertising, right? Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, whatever. And if you're doing that all within each platform individually, I think you can run up against some limitations like really quickly as you try to scale. Um, Digital analytics, you need some, I think, certainly at a minimum, a free version of a tool, a GA4, an amplitude, something, but ideally, probably again, as you scale, as your data grows, I think you're going to want an enterprise version of, GA4, 360, or an Adobe Analytics. You're going to want a paid version of those platforms at some point, probably as you scale. Again, as you scale. And then if you have any type of significant app presence, you probably want mobile measurement. Just given the challenges with measurement for mobile, I think there's significant value there. And then if you have the customer base to warrant it at a certain point, and then really honestly, the computational power has gotten so affordable through the cloud, I think some form of data orchestration, right? Whether it may not be a CDP proper, but you do need a data warehouse. You might want to consider trying to incorporate real-time right? Like it's not that hard to incorporate like event-based architecture and streaming data, real-time insights. I would say that's definitely not me. That's like pushing out of the median there for sure. It'll be the median in a few years, but yeah. Ahmed, what's your magic eight ball on that? Like, do you substantively agree, or I'd love for you to disagree with me because I'm sure I got something wrong.
really, I just felt the urge to jump in a few times there. But yeah, it's we're aligned. I think like even for attribution, it's not just with the like the number of channels leveraged. There's a lot that could be that's vital to have in terms of attribution because it's gonna help you answer those business questions like which of my different campaigns are performing effectively, driving the right kind of users. And it's with the privacy centric approaches now on the different operating systems, there's so much more that needs to be accounted for. So this brings me to like to a comment and then to a question. Like the comment is like the different capabilities we're talking about or the like categories of tools need to be leveraged effectively. Like what we do for like some of our clients as well is that we do some audits on how the tools are set up and being leveraged. And there's a reason why we keep finding improvements. The tool being there is not enough. So these would be, if we're going to decide on like what is the minimum required for an omni-channel retailer, we need to keep in mind that those tools need to be used effectively as well. That's essential. It's not enough to have the tool, but then I keep getting a question, and I'd love to hear your input on that. Like I always hear the question from some of our clients, when or why do I need a CDP if I have a CEP, or when do I know that it's time to take that step? And for me, I have an answer for that I keep mentioning, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. When is a good time to consider a CDP? What type of objectives cannot be met with a CEP and a CDP would be required?
Yeah, I mean, I think because most, I mean, there are CEPs that are, I mean, of course, there's gray areas in all these tools where they are increasing their own capabilities to the point where there's a lot of blurring across the boundaries of what a tool is, right? Like there are CEPs that have CDP like functionality, et cetera, right? But let's say like just if we're sticking to the pure capabilities, right? I mean, a CEP is very focused on a specific set of channels, and that those channels have grown, right, to include more contact methods. But that is really the sweet spot of a CEP tool, right? Is the journeys and the coordinating of messaging and preferences and optimization, if it's a really good enterprise tool around those customer engagement channels, email, SMS, push, uh, you know, API based like IoT type stuff. But anyway, that right. But a CDP is much broad. A good CDP is much broader in the sense of being able to orchestrate data in an omni-channel way that is inclusive of customer engagement, but not limited to just customer engagement, right? So you can also have interaction points, event streaming data coming in. If it's like a composable CDP, like literally the data in your data warehouse is kind of the universe of data that could be orchestrated, right? So I would say, if you're running up against, if you're kind of pushing your customer engagement channels to the limit and you're either needing to like enrich that data more, or you're also just like, well, how can I even get visibility and orchestration beyond my customer engagement? I think a CDP is the sort of natural evolution of that, right? Or if you're also interested in how you can coordinate that segmentation and optimization of like messaging and all of those things across the full customer life cycle, even going back, say, to prospects who have given you first party data. I mean, I think that's where I see where you would start to be asking that question: should I have something besides this CEP tool? Yeah. What's your answer?
Definitely, we're mostly aligned. It's when you feel you have you, in terms of your utilization of the CEP, you're at the limits. There's not much more you can do there. And add to that, if you have more data available, like you have behavioral data, you have transactional data, if you have more data that you're currently utilizing, this is where possibly using the CDP for more one-to-one real-time activation of that data. A way that meets, again, we're back to the objectives that you have, but it's more about what's currently available in terms of data and skill set and budget, and add to that what objectives you have and what tools you currently have and the utilization of those tools. And then you look at what's next. Of course, some industries, a CDP would be a requirement from the get-go. But yeah, this is why there's no silver bullet. It's going to be different from business to business, industry to industry. There's so many variables here. What do you think,
Yeah,
Dawood?
I mean,
I do think that. Uh, I mean, I'm a content person, so I do not mess around a lot with CDPs, but yeah, I do feel like just it's a necessity when you're not having much data, because like I looked at the report about the Martech report, and I was surprised to find out that the content marketing tools were the number one tools that exists out there. I thought it would be like CEPs or something like that, but it was not. So I do feel like CDPs in general are extremely needed when you need a centralized place to host all your data and then make a decision. I would say that some people make it too complicated. I mean, you do need a CDP. You cannot have like an Excel sheet. You do need a CDP to find your data and like find everything that you need to answer to. So whenever like you guys were grilling me yesterday for some data that we're having. And I think that a CDP would have been a huge savior for me if I had all of my data concentrated in one place, So I think that was
Yeah.
one of my issues, I do need something like that.
I mean, because first party data is becoming so much more important, right? If you need to centralize that data to be able to utilize it, right, across all of your media platforms, right? You want to be able to centralize the insights around that, like the touch points you have with prospects and customers, right? The overlap, where you think that person is in their life cycle, right? Like based on actual signals and insights, I think a CDP is crucial, right? And if you're trying to, and even things like, say like in the case of, and not just Helium, but like where you actually have event streaming data coming into your CDP as well. Like even how people are engaging with content can be part of the data set that your CDP orchestrates, right? So like, yeah, how are they engaging with downloadable assets, or, right? Did that person download a specific white paper that's really relevant, right? That now becomes a signal of intent, or that might trigger a follow-up message, right? Like even in the realm of like content marketing, lead nurturing, content, engagement on the website, right? Like a CDP can,
solve a lot of issues.
Take advantage of that centralization of data, right? And the nice thing there is right now you have behavioral signals that are triggering your marketing and communication signals, right? So now they're tied together in a way that's a bit more seamless.
Yeah. But in the realm of content, I think a CDP is, I mean, a CDP is needed, but like a simpler kind of CDP, other than other industries where you need a very like big and complicated CDP that you can connect like ads, content, website, mobile app, every piece, everything under the sun, you need to have it under CEP. We do not have that in content. Like we do need centralized place to look at data, but I think it is based on industry to industry. Some industries need different level of CDPs. Some industries like will move to composability, which was an interesting finding I found in the report when I was looking at it. We talked about composable CDPs twice on this podcast and twice on our blog.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's really interesting, like how CDPs will be changing in the future, because composability is the new thing. It's what was it? Orange is the new black, and then composability is the new CDP. It's the new technology infrastructure.
We'll see. Time will tell.
We'll see. Yep.
I think
I guess that's
time.
to wrap. Yeah. Time is up.
Any closing thoughts, Ahmed, on ideal tech stacks?
Other than it doesn't exist.
A recap would be helpful. Like if you're looking for the ideal Martech stack to have, start with the objectives that you're looking to achieve. Then look at the constraints that include budget, short-term objectives, long-term objectives, and then move to the current tools that you have, and look to connect the dots between the tools you have and the objectives you're looking for, and then fill the gaps with additional tools. I think it's going to be, there's no ideal stack, but there's an ideal stack for you. It's going to be for you at this current state in the short term, but this is something that you could actually aim for and tackle. If you're looking for an ideal stack per industry, that's going to be very tough. What do you think?
I think it's a great recap, and just the only thing I will add is, align those objectives to the capabilities you need to fulfill those objectives, because that's going to help you. And push to the limits before you invest in something new. Push your capabilities to the limits, because you'll learn more that way, and you'll get more out of your tools at every step of the way.
And my closing thoughts is, one more tool will not give you digital maturity, and it will not help you solve your issues unless in specific areas. But one more tool, no. And that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of digital transformation and gained valuable insights to help navigate the ever-changing landscape. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on our website, e-CENS.com, or connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for more exciting discussions on the forefront of digital innovation. Remember, the future is now, and it's time to embrace the power of transformation. Thanks for listening, and until next time.